Hello, friends. Welcome to the Holy Sister live show. No one is here yet, but if you are watching the playback, let us know down below what you rated it and who your favorite character is, because those are typically what I ask. We have 10 people now.
Yeah.
Hello, welcome. Sorry this was so late. Getting sick sucks, and then Thanksgiving really made things have to go later. So thanks for all joining, even though it came really, really late, and most of you probably read the book a long time ago. Just like always, I will go through and ask you what you rated the book and who your favorite character is. I feel like this is a harder book for favorite characters because I feel like Nona really is the only character in this one that really gets a spotlight, but I still have a different favorite character. So I want to ask. I forgot I was here. Hi, Rachel. Hello, Kelsey. Hello, Sherry. Thanks for being here. Mel, we will start with you.
I gave it 4 stars. I enjoyed it, but I read it so long ago that like Nona is the only character that like sticks out in my brain at the moment. I liked what is her name? The chosen one, Zol.
Zol.
A good bit in this one. She got a little more screen time, but I can't like think of a like definitive favorite character because it's not that I don't remember the plot of the story, but like I don't remember the ones that shine. Hi.
This is a Nona book in my opinion.
Yeah. So that's all I got for you. I'm sorry.
Bex, you're next.
I feel like this is going to be a very short live show.
Yeah, I'm not expecting it to go super long, but then I say that, and then we talk for like 2 hours.
I gave it 3 stars, I think.
Oh, I feel like that's pretty
surprised.
That's higher than I expected.
It was almost a 2-star, but like the last, I would say 20% bumped it up to.
That's the best.
And yeah, I don't know. I don't really have a favorite character.
That's fair.
I just don't.
Yeah, the ending was really good. That like finale had me excited, which is good momentum for the next series. But I gave this one 3 stars, so it's like 3 across the board for the whole series.
I'll take it.
Yeah, I think it's very much like a series where it's good. It's just not for me. Like I can see all the reasons people love it. It just didn't click from the start, and it didn't click until about the end, actually, which is when I felt the emotions. But that's like too late to save it for me. Glass was my favorite throughout the whole series. She obviously wasn't really like a feature in this one. So I would say Zol I really liked. I thought was really interesting in this one.
Here's the thing. I feel like Glass is still behind the scenes so much in this story, though. So like it's still like there, I feel like, for her to be your favorite character in this book.
But I actually like one of the issues I had was how she was in this book. I didn't really enjoy that's just the writing style for me, I think, where because we're hearing about it kind of as not even flashbacks. It's like kind of being told to us when it's relevant and when reveals are happening. But Nona has this information in her head and we're in her head. So for me, it's very much this disconnect of like, I want to know what Nona knows. I want to either experience it with her or I want to know that she knows it. And I don't love the way she kind of goes about telling us information for plot twists.
I feel like I normally complain about that, but for some reason it works for me in this. But I literally am reading a book. I just read a book where I said this exact same thing. So I feel that. This is a reread for me. I gave it 4 stars the first time. And I gave a really low 4-star the first time. I think it's a higher 4-star for me on reread. But it is still 4 stars. But there is a moment in this story that is set up, I feel like, so well in the entire series that I just like love that moment so much that I feel like it went higher. Because now that I've seen it, I'm like, I was reading the entire series the entire time, like, ooh, highlighting this part. And I was just waiting for us to get to this moment so that I can talk about it later on.
I'm trying to think of what that moment was. So
I feel like you don't know that it's set up. This is the thing. I had no idea. It was like, when I read it the first time, I was like, oh, and this time I also went, oh, but also because I was just excited about it. Because I had seen comments about it throughout the entire series. My favorite character is Clara. I love Clara. I think Clara is a really important message in the series, and I really like what she brings to the story because I feel like it would be not as interesting without her.
Yeah, I see that.
Before we like
Yeah, I don't think I can call her a favorite character, but like I do think she is one of the more interesting characters.
That's fair.
I'm still on the Clara hate train, and I want her done differently in order to save the series for me.
We would be reversed, I feel like. If Clara's position changed, I'd be the 3-star and you'd be the 4-star.
Not her that I want changed. Like, I love I agree with you. I think she's so interesting, and what's done with her is really cool, but I want Nona's, like, attitude toward her to kind of I will say, like, in the
That
end
is part of Clara, though.
Yeah.
What
But
Nona feels about Clara makes Clara so special.
I remember, though, is like in the last 50 pages where we get a moment where Nona either tells Clara or thinks it for herself about like why she treats like approaches Clara the way she does. I think she tells her, and she's like, "This is how I approach friendship because of this." And I was like, if we had gotten that in book 1, that's what I needed. So again, it was like the last ending where I got the emotional, and I was like, I get why she is as forgiving and as like friendship loyal to her as she is, but I needed it earlier.
That's fair.
I am going to look at some comments, but I first really do want to remind people that we did pick our next series, and all of these people are joining me, and maybe Sahar from Literary Sahar, but I told her no pressure because she is in law school. If you read them, come to the live show. If you don't, you're good. But December's pick, so you're supposed to read it this month. However, the live show won't be till like middle and January, just as I don't want to plan it around the New Year chaos. So we picked the next series, which is still in the same world as Book of the Ancestor, but they aren't connected in a way that you have to read them. It's just this happens on the ice. So if you are more intrigued about the ice, because we get to the ice in, can you hear my water? Sorry if you can.
No.
Into Grey Sister. If you were intrigued about the ice, this really dives into what the ice is. You'll be reading The Girl in the Stars in December. The Girl in the Mountain in February. Live show March, but also probably
It's the second weekend of that one.
March is going to be hard.
We're planning something else. So I need to figure out exactly what weekend this is, but second or third weekend, I guess. And then Girl in the Moon in
April. Yeah,
live show. What comes after April? I'm hungover. May. I'm really excited to get to these. They are, I think, a little bit younger in tone than Red Sister, but not a lot. I mean, they still follow a character around the same age as Nona. But let's look at comments before we get into anything else.
Actually, I have a question. Did he write anything in between? Like, did he go from that Book of the Ancestor into Book of the Ice? Or did he? Okay. Cool.
I gave it 4 stars. Nona's my favorite the whole way through the series. Do I remember much of it? No. Fair. 4 stars, enjoyed, but didn't 100% stick with me. I agree. I think the series as a whole sticks with me, but not the individual books.
Yeah.
It's more like Nona sticks with me, I guess.
It's definitely a character-driven series for me, like a character-driven in my brain, not necessarily even character. I mean, it is a character-driven series, but like in my head and what I remember, it's definitely Nona more so than anything else.
I agree. Apparently gave it 3.5 stars. That feels high, and I don't remember why I gave it that. 4.5 for me. The end solidified for me. Otherwise, the writing style was a disconnected and bothered me, but it did make me cry a couple times at the end, so I bumped it up. I started The Girl in the Stars today. I hope you enjoy it. I do like ice. Hi, Carly.
Carly.
I definitely won't get to it this month. I feel like you have a lot of time in January, too. So
I'm not.
I will be reading it in January. So
I'm hoping to get to it like end of December. But it is a reread for me, except for the last book. So that'll be fun again. Read one supposed to? ? The Girl in the Stars. I don't know why I always want to say she's in the stars. Fair.
I think I say that a lot of times too. You're not alone.
I call it The Girl on the Ice all of the time. Because the Book of the Ice. Called The Girl on the Ice.
I'm pretty sure in my weekly update, because you said that, I typed that.
I call it The Girl on the Ice all of the time.
I'm pretty sure I typed that, and I know better, but because you had just said it last night, pretty sure that's what I typed.
Yep. Super excited about the Book of the Ice. It was the most interesting part for me. I think I'll like that one much more. I think that series dives a lot deeper into the world and what's happening around that. So I think that's interesting. I have one scene in Holy Sister that I remember. I've read it 3 times. dang people needing things, but I'm here. 4 to 4.5 stars. Couldn't tell exact plot points, but the characters and vibes were great. Does anyone have any overall thoughts before we jump into spoilers? I feel like a third book is very hard to talk about non-spoiler free, and I feel like everyone here, besides Carly, who will not read these, has read it.
I guess the only thing is, like, I think for another not complaint, but like something that would have bumped it up for me if it had been done differently was the politics, because I do love politics, but I thought that they were introduced very like background to everything going on with Nona. So I almost would rather we didn't have it. But the third book is all about this kind of big threat, and it's introduced. So like I feel like we don't really have stake in it or care about it that much other than Nona's story in it. And so that for me, I was having trouble with that a little bit.
I agree with you on that. I do see that, but I do think that if you think about the series as a whole, it's really interesting how he managed to have such a tiny scope and then widen it a little and then widen it so much more at the end, which I think is why it's not people's favorite book, is because it just explodes in expansiveness, but you don't take
the shortest and
You
it
don't
explodes
Yeah.
so much bigger than the rest.
Yes,
very well
that
said.
was that was for me why, because honestly, I had a fantastic time. I expected to give this book 3 stars after hearing everybody talk about it, and I was shocked at how much fun I still had with it, but it just moved too fast.
It does not have the time, in my
Yeah, I
opinion.
think
If this
that
had been
was-
longer, even like the same size as the other books, I think it would have been a 5-star from me.
Yeah,
but
same.
Yeah, because I was
so short.
listening to it, and I don't know, I'd say I was like probably a third of the way in, and I was like, what is the point of this? Like, and like then it kind of started to like ramp up, but I was like, it should not be in the last 2/3 of the final book in the series where I'm starting to go, this is what the book like.
And it was doing so much. Like there was so much going on. And Becca talked about in your, I think one of your wrap-ups that was really cool, that you said that like the structure changes and that you had trouble with that. And I think that the way the structure is in the third book versus like the other two, I think also adds to that level of like third doesn't feel like it takes the time it needs to with everything, because it's dealing with the back and forth a lot.
It is interesting, having reread the entire series, that I do think the politics are set up in book 1, but very subtly, and then a little bit more in book 2. So I was less surprised and like shocked when we got this.
That's interesting on reread.
I think that there are a lot of things that are very subtle throughout this entire series that build up to a whole, and I can understand why that doesn't work for everyone. And I feel like typically I'm a person that doesn't work for, but I was so invested in Nona that it did work for me.
Same. I think that this would have been a really cool series to be stretched over, like lengthen that book a little and maybe even 4 books and really taken the time with it. Because there is so much to delve into the world that I wanted to know. But from what I've heard, it sounds like he takes that time and puts that in a different series almost intentionally.
It's almost like 6 books, just not the same
exactly.
If I were to go back and like reread for a third time, I would do a tangent read, I think, and read like Red Sister and then the first book of the Ice book, and like do them back and forth. I think that would very much add to like the complexity of what you get. But I don't know.
Are they timeline the same at all? Okay.
I feel like I can't say.
I don't think they're like as you think of like a tandem read, like same, time to time.
No, I just think it would add to the complexities, but I don't know if I would do that first read, because I think that maybe would confuse you a little bit too much, because they're not like a tandem side by side. Rachel said that's what I did. It was a very cool experience. I didn't love the back and forth in the timeline for this one. I loved that, and it's part of like what really works for me in this one, but I get that not everyone likes that.
I liked it. I thought it made it faster paced.
Yeah, it didn't work for me. Number one, it just took a bit to like get your bearings around it, and I was like, why are you doing this in the final book? Like, why? And then,
I do feel like you needed both of those though, and if
you needed both of
if
them.
you had done like one then the other, I don't think it would have flowed very well.
I agree.
Yeah, but also
you needed
I
both.
felt like it was a way for him to like do plot twists, but because of the way that he had structured it and never structured it before, I could kind of guess things. I was like, this isn't actually going to be something that's happened, because of like, this isn't what you usually do. So like, I think you're doing this for shock. And I was right.
I was sad that we didn't get the like structure of the first 2 books as much as I liked the third structure, because I thought like it was just a really cool the way he had set that up in the first few.
I feel like though it does do some of that back and forth flash and flash forward, even in book 1, which is something that a lot of people didn't like because it wasn't always super clear when we were backwards. But
like that's a thing
it was
that he
there in the
struggled with.
first book.
I think
whole
again it's a
series.
thing that's subtle and then
Mhm.
builds and then we get it in here. And I think
Yeah.
that's how I explain his writing forever in this entire story.
That makes sense.
Yeah. I
You see a little bit and then a little bit more and then a whole lot.
Mhm.
Yeah, see, I think no more. I just don't. I think that's one of like, because I will say, like, I don't think there's anything in this where I'm like, oh my god, I actively like dislike this thing.
Mhm.
It's like just there's just like some sort of disconnect. Like it just doesn't work for me.
Yeah.
Like, but I do think like the one thing, I just don't think he's very good with timelines because I feel like it takes ages for you to be like, where am I? When am I? Like the jump from the first to the second book, it took me a while to like try and figure this out. And the same in this one, and then there was the 2 timelines, and I'm like, do you know where we are?
It's so fascinating. I saw a couple people complain about that, and I, even on first read, did not have a problem with that. I knew where I was
and I usually
right
don't have
away.
a problem with multiple timelines, but I don't know, something about it just did not work with his writing style. Maybe I don't know what it was.
I saw a
As
couple
I said,
people.
usually I don't struggle.
Sherry and Kelsey, I think, both said the same thing.
Yeah, I told Sherry, I was like, no, this is where, because she thought book 3 started somewhere it didn't. And I was like, no, this is where it starts right. That one timeline starts right after book 2.
Maybe also maybe it could have been a bit of an audiobook issue, which again I do think I've listened to books that have multiple timelines, but usually I guess maybe there's a bit more differentiation. Whereas with this one, it is just like the one narrator and all of that, and you know, because it's all in Nona's head, it's the same voice. So maybe that could have been it. I'm not 100% sure, but
I don't know. Does the narrator to like say like
What is it, like then now or something in the titles?
Escape and Holy Class
Mhm.
in the
I
audiobook?
don't think so.
it wasn't even necessarily like I didn't know which timeline we were in. I was able to get that within like a sentence or two. It was
Well,
just,
and it
like,
says
at
present
the very
day
start of the book,
and
I
like
was
3
just
years
like,
earlier.
how many years has it been? That was kind of where I was at. It was like I don't think he's very good at like making it feel nearly realistic that the characters have aged that much. I think is kind of more what I'm saying. It's like when we went from the first book to the second book, like there was that, I don't know, how was it a couple of years or was it, I can't even remember it. That's my point.
It's 3 years.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But like it was
The
like
growth, you're
it doesn't
saying.
really feel like the characters have aged 3 years to me. And then same in this book, it's like even within the 2 timelines in this book, I don't feel like they've aged that much.
I disagree so much. I feel like I feel Nona's age come across each time because of what she's learned and the lessons she learns and how she then discusses things. But I think that's a connection to a character because I'm just wholeheartedly Nona. Like
Yeah.
The age didn't bother me, but I don't really pay attention to ages. But I do remember in book 1 being bored with like the flashbacks, and that was my struggle with the first one, is I just wanted to like get to the other timeline.
That's fair, yeah.
Which in book 3 I liked both. But I did miss the like flash forward, because book 1 almost had like 3, where it had the flashback to Nona's childhood, then we had the like her arriving, and then we had the flash forward, and I missed that flash forward in book 3 because I liked the intrigue of that.
Yeah, but I don't know how you would have a flash forward that, because you do kind of, you have like the 3 years later in this, but like how else do you do a flash forward when it has to like end?
You can get there. Yeah, I know it's tough, but I would have almost liked, like, you know how we get to that, I'm not going to say what it is, but we get to that like confrontation in the flash forward. I would have liked maybe a little bit of teasing of what that is in like book 3, and then we get to it and we see how it all develops. Like I think you could have teased a little bit more.
That's fair. Kayla agrees with you. Characters didn't seem to mature in the narrative, especially with the audio. I didn't do the audio either time.
As I said, maybe it could have been an audio issue. Also, I think that there might be a different audiobook for America and the UK. So
maybe there could be. Okay, well, let's just jump into me putting the spoiler thing, because that was obviously you want to see some spiders. Because I feel like everyone here is here to discuss the book. I don't know where to start.
I had something spoilery that I wanted to say, but I forgot.
I think the cool thing about this is seeing every little thread come together for me, specifically in that like last 50. And I think we do a good job for me in the flashbacks of keeping me wondering how things are going to come together to then have this like final big reveal.
What was the setup you mentioned?
Oh, it's Sister Pan.
Oh.
There are so many comments about her still being on the path
Yeah.
throughout this entire story, and then you get to this moment.
I went,
Good.
oh,
That got me emotionally too. I was like,
Incredible.
oh.
Like Kiot being scared of her and saying, "Don't mess with her. She's too powerful." And like, there's a reason for that because she's still walking the path. And
I caught those. Like, I thought everyone was underestimating her and that like thinking she was frail, but I did not catch that she was still.
She was by far the most powerful character in the entire series.
We talk about how you have to kind of walk the path a little bit to get to that third room. And Nona mentions how she doesn't know how Sister Path does it because she's on the path still.
That was a cool reveal. That
when
got
she
me.
drops off and just like annihilates them every single time, I'm like, oh my god!
I loved that part.
Well,
also, just like the sisters facing and like the sacrificing and them, a lot of them dying, that got me emotionally too.
I the first time I read this, cried very hard about Sister Apple, and this time I didn't. I don't know if it's because I was expecting it, but I remember being very emotionally impacted the first time because I was like, for poor Kettle, and like
I didn't cry, and I was a little bit spoiled because of the Discord. I put like, oh, I love that cat. Like, I think it was the Apple or no, Kettle said like, I'll defend Apple, and someone put like a sobbing emoji to that, and I was like, no, that's not gonna go well. All right,
well. That part was really well done. Maybe that's why I raised my rating a bit. Let's discuss. Cass a crier?
I was
Wouldn't have guessed.
Not really anything to do with the book, but well, it is a bit. It's the same narrator for the Book of the Ice. So maybe I'll read the ebook, see if that works better. And also, Scribd has the second and third one, but not the first one for me. So
I will say I listened to books 1 and 2 the first time I read them and gave them both 4 stars, and reread them physically and gave them 5. I think his writing style, and I will even say this for the book that wouldn't burn, the narration was done beautifully in that one, but I think his writing style does lean a little bit better to eyeball reading.
I did listen to the audio on both of these. I don't remember what I gave The Girl in the Stars. I want to say 4 stars, but I gave the second book 5 stars listening to it on audio.
I remember you reading the second book.
The second book?
You're like, I can't tell you anything, but oh my god!
The only one that I listened to audio was the first one, and I went back and forth, and I liked it the most. I think I liked the audio, but it was fun for the trials. Like, that was a fun time to be listening. So I don't know.
The audio book narrator for Red Sister is the same as the Book in the Stars.
Okay,
I'm gonna look now.
I'm planning to try audio.
I don't think so. I did technically listen to the last 50 pages of this through the audiobooks. My sister has them, but I think these two will agree. I liked it, but I figured they would agree.
I went back and forth on it. At first, I was like really mad. I was like, that is such a waste of a character who has been built up so much. And then later on, I was like, maybe that's the whole point. Is that life ends in unsatisfying ways. And then I was like, no, I'm still annoyed.
I think it was very fitting to her character, and for me to be able to see that she was doing it like from the grave. Like, she was still pulling threads. She was still smarter than them all. She was still caring. She still like made such an impact on so many characters that they were doing things for her. And I feel like that made me feel very like well-rounded about her character. And I don't think that if we'd seen her actually die, we would have gotten those moments, because as I think what doesn't work for Maria, you would have been told right away these things. And I liked that intrigue to see all these moments come together.
Yeah, oh, sorry, go ahead, Mel.
Oh, I was just going to say, I think that I wish it had been a little more in the middle between the two things. Like, I almost feel like it was too glossed over, but I didn't want to actually see it either. So for me, it was just kind of one of those, like, I don't want it to be done the way that I think everybody else wants it done, but I needed maybe a tad bit more than because she was like in this thing where she wasn't even sure it was actually happening in the moment. And I wish we hadn't had that much guesswork to only find out 50 pages later in an offhanded comment. That just seemed a little too glossed over for a character that was so prominent. It was almost, I don't want to use the word anticlimactic, but I don't know. I feel like it could have been done just a little bit differently, but also I did like the way that it was done over being a little too in your face with it.
I agree. Again, it's like very subtle. Like there are comments earlier than you get about Sister Wheel being Abyss Wheel and like who's standing next to her and things like that. But you wouldn't pay attention to those. Like that's not it's subtle to tell you that Abyss Glass is gone. It's not like outright, and I feel like it would be very easy to miss those things. I know
subtle it was confusing. Like they said Abyss Wheel, and I was like, hold up, what?
Yeah. Like when that kind of took me out a little bit because I feel like you could have made it a little clearer without having seen it. Because I agree with Cassidy. If you see this character just outright die, it's going to feel like they're not really there anymore. Whereas when it's kind of not an illusion, but almost a little bit murky, you can still kind of feel that they're there doing things in the moment that it's actually happening rather than it being a past event. Does that make sense at all?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, and she tells Nona so much that we can't know. Like,
that's
if we had known them.
Like, I think I don't want to
like,
I want to know the things.
But, like, if we had known if we had known Abyss Glass saying, pick Holy Sister, then that moment of, like, what the fuck? Nona didn't pick the red or the gray. Like, what? Like, why is she picking Holy Sister?
See, but because
we're not like...
Yeah, but I immediately guessed that she had been told to do that because, of course, she wouldn't have done that willingly.
Well, and she doesn't explain it. Like everyone afterward is like, why? And she's like, I can't make you understand. But like, you could just tell them I did it because Glass told me to.
But then
she does do it for more than Glass. She tells us at the end that she does it because this is what the convent stands for. It's about the faith.
Right, but like again, those things, like we get that explanation by Nona, but I want it in the moment
but the
instead
whole way through the series, she kind of believes the faith is a bit of crap. Like
that's the growth that she goes through in the whole series is that she starts to learn that it's about the faith and it's about your friends and the loyalty. It's about us all being sisters, and that's shown through Clara a lot too because Nona
I liked that
fully says like I'm loyal to you, you're my friend, you are going to do the right thing. And then we see Clara do the right thing, which if Nona had never done that to Clara, she never would have.
I also think in the moment of her picking Holy Sister, like if this had been first person point of view, we had been like in Nona's head and seeing things as she did them and as she thought things, then yeah, it would have made no sense for her to not explain the thought process behind Holy Sister. But because even though it's very much so Nona's story and all about Nona, but we're not in her head truly, it was okay for me because it was a mystery to us as much as it was to everyone else. And that was okay.
And I obviously
get thoughts on things. For me,
you do get her thoughts on things, but it's not first person.
Yeah, like with her. It's third person thinking with her, but it's still like a little taken aback than if you were first person.
Yeah.
But I think for me, that's the issue. Like if it had been third person following different characters or like third person and we were just following her actions and dialogue and not her thoughts. But I think because of the choice to like, we see some of her thoughts and some of her reasons, some of her reactions. And there's sometimes thoughts that she doesn't verbalize and tell other characters. But then she purposefully holds back. Like it very much felt to me like she was like almost breaking the fourth wall where she was purposefully seeing us as the readers there and withholding information that like what she's not withholding it from the characters. She's just withholding it from us.
I agree.
And the author's hand is
telling a story. It feels like it's like Nona's story to us, but I am okay with that. I think
it's just a choice. Like I think it's just a choice that didn't work for me, and like I wanted less author hand in that.
The other thing is
that happens in the first book as well with her story about her meeting the juggler.
Yeah,
like, she constantly lies to us.
I think that's why with Nona
it doesn't really work for me, but like I can definitely see why it works for people.
I agree with Cassidy though. Like it almost felt like a lie to herself in the moment. I'm going to pick Holy Sister because Abyss Glass told me to, but I don't fully believe it. Even in that moment, you could almost see she doesn't buy into the Holy Sister thing as much as she's not willing to say that she is as much as she actually is. And she's still like
And for me,
I see what you're saying. The issue is like the chapter after she picks Holy Sister, she doesn't say Abbess Glass told me to. Like that information doesn't come up until like a good 50, 100 pages later. And that's where I get if it's like, you can't do it earlier because plot twist, but I want it at that point then.
But I think that I was still left wondering why exactly she did it. Like I didn't 100% know if it was because of Abyss Glass, and maybe that was like me not like, I understand why some people would, but also you don't know the full reason. Like I was like, did Abyss Glass ask her and that's why she did it, or is there another reason? Does she know something? Does she not want to fight against Clara? Like there was so many things for me that could add up to why she picked it, that I was still intrigued and wondering like, why did she do this?
Same.
And so when we get the reveal that Abyss Glass told her because this and this, I don't think that would have impacted me as much if I had just been like told, oh, Abyss Glass told me to do that, like, so I picked it.
I wonder if it is like, as much as we're saying the series is like stand out because of the characters and character driven in that way, but I think like the character driven reader in me likes to be internal. Like I like to be in the brain of the character and understanding their motives more than I want the like plot twists or the like external. And I wonder if it's that, like, even though they're the standouts, I want to be more with her, if that makes sense.
That's fair, and I'm here to see the plot still.
Yeah.
Like even though I love Nona, I love seeing the plot.
But I don't know. I guess even if I had been in her head, I don't know, that moment I think just would have been taken away in impact for me later on. And I loved the impact in the wrapping up and how beautifully that was all able to come together in the end. If I had known that halfway through the book, I would not have cared. So I'm totally okay with that.
Don't fully think that Nona was prepared to do that until she got up there either. Even though Abyss Glass asked her, she still made sure that she could get all of the other. She still wanted to be able to pick the red and be able to pick the black. And like, why would she go through what she did to get the black without a shadow if she wasn't thinking about it and considering it? So for me, it was still a big moment of her like realizing that she has to pick Holy Sister for some reason.
It felt like she almost went against her natural, like her nature and her like instinct, which I liked, because it is choosing your values, and it is, purposefully choosing something versus what is instinctive and like you're good at. And I liked that balance because she would have been suited to the other ones way more, but she chose it for a belief. And I thought that was really cool.
I had been rooting for the black. I can't lie. I was like, you just did that without a shadow. I hope you choose that the first time I was reading it.
Okay, I will say, that's something that really frustrates me throughout the books, is I think he does a pretty good job of like in like the big situations. Like I always believe she's going to be like, she's gonna come out alive. Maybe not necessarily okay, but with these smaller things, I wanted her to fail just once in the entire series.
Never.
It's so frustrating me because she just always did it. You shouldn't be able to do it, but I'm gonna.
This is also a theme. Like in book 2, Abyss Glass says, you have never failed and I have failed you for that. Because Nona never fails, and she just puts her mind to something and she achieves it and she does it. And Abyss Glass is like, I wanted you to fail. Like you needed to learn to fail, and she never did.
Yeah, and it's just something I just like, I don't know. It just really frustrates me.
Normally that's me too, but I agree. I think part of it is because it wasn't easy for her to succeed. She still had to figure out a way around.
I think what it is that makes me laugh is because like Nona obviously, like as I said, she like doesn't. I mean, obviously she's had like big failures in like the first book and all of that, but like she has never really like failed kind of a lot of the stuff. And obviously, as I said, that frustrates me. But then seeing like in Nona's obviously we're following Nona and all of that, and seeing the way she reacts to Zol, also never failing at things, that didn't bother me though, because of the way it's written and also, the humor kind of that's added to it. Like it's poking fun at the fact she never fails, but with Nona, it's like dead serious.
Doesn't Nona fail her friends? Like we see so many of her friends die, and that is her failing.
I feel like she's
not to save them.
She sees it as a failure. But I see it the way Becca did, where I think she doesn't fail very much. And it did bother me in book 2. It didn't bother me in book 3 because I was like, she's the chosen one at this point. Like, even if she's not, she's going to defeat all the bad guys. Like, it's fine. But I think, like, she sees it as a failure, which I think we talked about in the previous live show, but it's more of a loss. Like, I think she has losses and sacrifices, and, like, she just has a lot of suffering. But I don't think it's a
like
failure.
That I feel like is a difference. Is like that is a failure to me if all you want to do is save your friends and you chose like in book 2 she chooses something else and then she can't save her friend. Like that's a failure on her. Like that for me is like crushing and like because I know how much she is loyal to her friends and wants to save them all, like that's a failure. It's not just like a loss versus like I felt like Abyss Glass was a loss to her, but like why can't I remember the character's name who died in book 2?
Darla.
Is a failure.
Like I wonder if we're talking about, I don't know if this is what you mean, Bex, but like if we're talking about in the classes versus in the like big
that's
fights.
what I mean. It's like I don't necessarily, as I said, like in like real world, like as I said, I actually like obviously I always believe that she's gonna come out alive. I never once for a doubt second like thought that he would like kill off the main character. I didn't think that. But like I did think that like there would be consequences for her actions. Like that's never saying that. And like as I said, Darla and all of that. But in the classes, there never feels like there's consequences.
Like anytime she's trying to learn a new technique or like a new thing that nobody else can do. Because I agree, like the thing,
like, and it starts in book 1 when she, I mean, obviously she still gets poisoned, but like she avoids the first attempt of it.
But she
like,
takes
obviously she then gets poisoned.
She doesn't do
like,
perfectly and almost dies and has black eyes. Like,
but then she survives the black eyes and the no shadow and the shadow
test. As I said, that's
like,
not in a class. That's in.
But those were the skills she learned in the class, and I feel like we don't see classwork that often. Like, and she gets beaten all the time by Zol in class in the red.
Yeah, but as I said, Zol is also a character who doesn't fail. But as I said, for some reason, it doesn't bother me when it's her because of the way it's
fail
painted
against Zol all the time because of that.
I wonder if it's like also a preference of what you like in a class setting, because I think when I do like a school setting, I want to see them struggle and like work for it, almost like
many.
I was literally about to say that and trying to process if you had already read it or not. And I was like, please don't read
reminds me so much of The Will of the Many.
Do not read it.
Learning it.
Because I feel like I don't want to be in the class. Like I don't want to do the learning. I want to see them like do the work. If that makes sense.
I don't think I want that. So like I don't need you to fail a math test. No, that's boring.
But I want to see like the journey. Like I want to see the work.
And I think like Nona's journey is her character work and loyalty and where she is at the start versus the end of the series, and not her succeeding at things, because her skills are not the journey.
Can we talk about that though? Because do you guys think that she had a difference in loyalty and friendship in the beginning to where she ends up in the end? Because I feel like that's one of my biggest actual issues with the series. Like she decides this is how I treat friendship and loyalty as a kid, and then she never wavers. And I wanted that to be tested.
Yes, because she keeps someone alive at the end of this book that at the start of the book she would not have. She would have said, you hurt me, you hurt my friends. I would have killed you for doing that to me at the beginning of this book, but I will keep you alive.
But that's like toward her enemies. Like she has growth toward her enemies, but does she have growth toward her friends and loyalty?
That's part of her growth for me in friendship and loyalty though, because at the beginning, if you hurt me, if you hurt my friends, death to you. And that's like her loyalty thinking. And at the end, she learns to be able to like grow past that, and that solely thinking that you're bad if you did something bad to us.
Interesting. Okay.
That's like for me, I guess. But I think maybe that's a difference in what we think friendship and loyalty about the characters is.
Or like the focus, yeah. Because I did feel like that was the most static, and that's where I really wanted. If it had given me more like within that, I would have loved that theme way more.
And I think she learns to make sacrifices, like picking Holy Sister over the red.
And sacrifice. I did like the sacrifices of her friends. Like I thought that situation where in the end she has to choose between, what's her name? I'm so bad at names. The best friend that she loves.
Don't ask me to know that character's name.
Arabella. That she has to choose between her and then the two that are caught by the evil person whose name I also don't remember. I thought that was such a fascinating dilemma, because I was like, finally she's in a moral like where this is testing her beliefs.
But also, I didn't actually think for a second that she wouldn't choose Ara. Like to me, it was like very obvious that she was. And I was like, those poor people just getting tortured.
I agree that I didn't think for a second she wouldn't choose Ara, especially because Ara was the more imminent danger that was going to die compared to the other girl. But I still felt for Nona having to make that choice, so I was happy.
Yeah, but
it was
also,
there.
did she choose it because it was the more imminent danger, or because she prefers her?
I almost expected her not to make a choice. Like, I thought that she would come up with her Nona way to, like, do both somehow. And she kind of did.
I mean, she did.
But she also doesn't. She lets her friend get tortured for an hour.
Exactly. Where it felt like she did give something up that really, like, both for her and for her friends was something really vital. And for me, that felt like a really strong, like that I felt that decision when she made it versus her finding a way to do both.
Scherzel's big angry girl. I am glad we didn't see this, but I liked the like hints that it was there, but I didn't need to see it on page. But I get that some people would.
Yeah, I wasn't mad about it, but I kind of like the way I've heard people talk about it. I thought that was going to be a bigger thing, and so then I had like kind of gotten myself excited for it, so then I was let down. But like if nobody had told me about that going into this, I would not have I would have liked how it was, but because like people like alluded, oh, it's sapphic, and I'm like, oh,
it's so soft. Yeah,
I just don't think we needed the other relationship. Like, I think if we had the exact same thing with Ara, but no other relationship, it wouldn't have felt like an overshadowing almost, or like I get why the journey of that happened, but I just didn't need it.
It didn't bother me.
Like the guy.
Mm-hmm.
I like that because again, I think she makes a sacrifice at the end with that because she wants him. Like she wants that like comfort from sex. And she has to. You see, the final scene is her like, "You will go on without me." And it'll be okay.
But even his reaction, he was like, "This is a blow," and then he was like, "Actually, I'm fine." And I
love him. I love him for that.
I wanted more emotion there.
I love it. That's like how I am, I guess. Like I'm just like, this sucks. I'm gonna cry, but I'll get over this. Like, thank you for your time and our moments together. But I will.
I'm already over it.
That's such a guy thing to say, but I don't.
It is.
Like,
there you go. I think what I'm learning though, hearing everybody talk about it, is this book is very much so either you read into some of the motivations and the undertones of what is assumed that Lawrence was trying to put in it and you love it for that, or you're reading it as face value page. And if you love it, if you read it for face value page, you're not enjoying it as much as you like. And I don't do that normally in books. I don't normally read into what the author is probably trying to do here. Normally I am a page reader.
Me and Lycanius. I was like, please tell me exactly what is happening, what your motive is.
But in this one, but if you read it for like page, it's not as depth. It's very surface level, and you miss like you wanting more from it because it doesn't do it on page.
That was the exact opposite because for Lycanius, I was able to read between the lines. I was able to be like, didn't they basically say that this was
crazy?
Happening? But like, no, they didn't say that.
I wonder what decides like when your brain will or won't, because I have books where I also read like one of my favorite series. My favorite thing about it is it's so subtle, and if you just read the line, it's one thing, but if you look into like the meaning, there's 3,000 different options. But like I put that effort in, and here maybe it's that into like just intrinsic connection where it's like you have to first
it's your character, whether you care about the character or not, sometimes can let you like. I feel like I understood Nona, so it was really easy for me to read under the lines where like when I read Lycanius, I was like, these characters are cardboard. Like I don't understand them, but if I had, I think maybe I would have been able to understand motives a little bit more. The ending of this, I guess, I feel like, wow, we were like, this is gonna be a short live show, and then we just argued for 20 minutes over one thing.
Love the ending.
The ending and just like seeing
incredible
the like moon and things like that. How does everyone feel about the ending?
Yeah, I wasn't thinking of that. I was thinking of literally the moment that we finally get back to where we were from the very first page of the series. That was the moment when I actually started to like this book.
The quote. Yeah, the quote.
And when I tell
back,
you,
I was like, yes, iconic,
that's only, like,
amazing.
Yeah.
That's only like what, the last like 20% maybe?
It is the last.
When I tell you, that was like
pages.
4 stars at least. That last 20%.
Yeah.
Like, I was like, oh my god, if the whole series had been like this for me, I would have had such a good time. But like from that moment, I was like, yes. But as I said, the rest of the book was like 2 stars, so I was like
The last ending
50 pages are 5 stars for me, so I feel like I also think that they went up a star.
Yeah.
But yours were like 3 stars.
I debated giving it 3.5 just because of that like whole ending.
I loved the last a little bit where they're like talking about it and you're learning the prophecy and the chosen one and why things were the way they were and how she like meddled into that to make them both feel that way, and it was just so good.
The whole thing with like Zol being the chosen one who opens the place, but that whatever the ship heart, but it does it because maybe she's absorbed all the like or like taken away the parts of herself, the flaws, and that I liked that.
It's so sad to me seeing Zol at the end of this book.
And the way that she does actually for her friends, like that whole thing with Nona, that got me emotionally too.
For me, I think it was cool that Zol is dead for me in the end of this book. Like, she feels dead to me. And she's dead for most of this book. And she comes back and you're like, oh, she's alive. And then you get to know her. And I'm like, is she actually alive? Like, she has no feelings anymore. Like, she's dead. Like, and I thought that was really interesting.
But I do, and I think like she and Clara, I guess, are examples of what you guys are saying, where like if Nona wasn't as 103,000% of, that doesn't even make sense mathematically, but if she wasn't that level of like loyalty to her friends, they wouldn't return it and it wouldn't work this way. But because Nona's been that way to her, Zol returns it. And that was really beautiful. But I like the effects of it. I just don't like the origin. But that was beautifully done.
We have a moment where Nona says something. She's like, Clara's gonna do this. And then you do have her in her head like, I hope she does. Like, I believe she will, but like she might not. And I believe she would because Nona believed she would. And I was like, I feel like Clara is a friend in a different way and very selfish. And I also think we see Clara grow up quite a bit in each story, which I thought was cool. My character that I thought is the weakest in the end is Ara. I wish that we had seen, I loved her in like book 1, and then I feel like she's just exists to be a person for Nona to like love and save.
Agreed. Yeah, agreed completely. She was barely even present at all, and when she was present, it was very
started out in book 1 as like a potential chosen one, and then by the end of this book, she is just
there.
Yeah,
existing.
And she is like damsel in distress nearly.
Yeah.
Even I love like the other two. I think that they grow quite a bit, but I don't know. Ara really lets me down throughout the entire series, but I love seeing also like the difference in who they are when those two that I don't remember the names of are tortured, and one is being tortured and stays like shut, and Nona's like, I know she didn't spill a thing, but she's like, I know the other girl did, and like you can't blame the other girl for spilling. I would spill if my friend was being tortured, but like
I think was it Jolie? I don't remember, the one who's like the studious by the book rule book one that like
Jolie, I think is
Jolie is the angry person,
crazy.
And then Ruli. Okay, so I liked whoever, maybe Ruli because rules.
It's Ruli.
I liked Ruli's response when there was like this hilarious line where Nona's like talking to her and she's like, no, we have to do everything by like, she's like, we have to be on the rules, and Nona's like, but we just stole a book. She's like, yeah, but like that doesn't count. That's like the one time.
We did that to save the world. Now we're good.
I just loved the like completely terrible logic. It was so fun. I was like, this is a twist on who like this law-abiding type of personality.
Yeah.
I do like too at the end when Nona has the demons in her again, and she's like, I can't make this decision because my demons are here and they're showing. And then I like the discussion on how like she couldn't make them without them because they're a part of her, and she does have these flaws in her, but the demons just bring them to the surface. And I thought that was a really beautiful conversation right there about who we are as people, are good and bad. And I think we see that through Nona. She does good things and she does bad things this entire series.
Her flaws are very clear, but like in a well-written way. I did really like that.
I think her flaws are both a negative and positive throughout the story for me. Like,
they make her who she is and make her get her to where she like succeeds and things, but they're flaws at the same time. But I liked that she also goes against them with the moon, where she doesn't use it to obliterate everyone, and she uses it instead as like something again against her nature. That felt like a very holy, like her choosing holy sister moment of like, this is who I am now instead of what I could be naturally. I'm thinking also like one of my favorite
growth. I think at the start of this series, she would have killed them all. Even second book, I think she would have just taken that moon and gone.
You go. And I mean, it felt like a struggle in that too. There was a lot of back and forth about what are we going to do? What are we going to do in that moment too. That there was a little bit in the ending of that where I was like, wow, this really could have been a little bit more clear what we're doing and why and how this is happening, and not just so, well, we know what to do now. That irritated me just a little bit, but that was a common theme, unfortunately, throughout the third book. Spending time.
Also, like, there's a moment in here where the battle is ending, and there's a moment saying maybe if we had 50 Nonas, we could win. And I was just like, this just shows you, like, because I don't think Nona is all powerful, but I think she sets her mind to something, and that's why she succeeds at them. And she just, like, doesn't fail because of that. But she's not Zol. Like, Zol is all powerful.
But Zol is also, like, I think Zol is more pragmatic, and partly maybe because she's gotten rid of those parts of herself, where she will weigh things in a very objective, like, not, like, this is the greater good, whereas Nona's like, I don't care if that's the greater good.
I like that concept, though, because they're supposed to be one and the same almost, but they're two completely different sides of a coin. Like, Zol is completely pragmatic, and Nona is ruled by emotion almost constantly.
But she isn't. Zol isn't, though, because we see in the second book
that
she goes after Nona because
that's the best part, though.
And we also see
they teach
Nona
each other
at times be pragmatic. So I think that they teach each other these little moments.
Yeah, I think they both, like, grow off of each other in that way.
Specifically in the second book and throughout, like, I think when they're traveling through the ice together, I think you see Nona think like Zol a couple times and be like, what would Zol do? And then Zol also think, like, what would Nona do? Which I liked. I like that they grow off each other. I'm hoping you guys like the Book of the Ice, because I think you see a little bit of how Zol becomes who she is. It doesn't follow Zol, but, like, because of their culture. I'm not saying anything, but it doesn't follow Zol. I'll tell you that. I feel like going into this not knowing where it is, when it is the best way to do that. But because I remember ending this and thinking it was going to be a prequel for Zol. Like, that's what I thought this was going to be. I was like, we're going to see how Zol grew up. But you definitely see, like, the culture of the ice and how they're taught. And it's such a hard world that I think it's harsh.
I kind of hated their beliefs, so I'm hoping we get more of a, like, balance, not just, like, because I think when you read the summary of the Book of the Ice first book, The Girl in the Stars, it seems really harsh, and I think we got that in book 3, and I hope we get more of an understanding of why they are that way. If it's like a response, I guess it's probably a response to, like, the harsh environment, but I want it to be more than that again.
Oh, they just push kids into the fucking pit of the missing. Just bye.
What is wrong with them?
Like, what?
I think that's cool, though. Even if it's harsh, like, if you are showing me the hows, like the whys, I'm good with it. Like, I like seeing different cultures and things like that.
I agree that Nona's creative with her talent. I, like, love too that she says sorry to Kettle before killing Seraphina.
Oh, yeah.
And I do think Seraphina's death was, like, anticlimactic, but I also think it was the only way to go, because she would have beaten Nona. So the fact that it was just, like, fast and easy, just one stab to the heart. But I thought it was cute. She was just like, sorry, Kettle, because Kettle still cared about this person. When she jumps into Kettle to save Apple, but, like, she doesn't save Apple.
Like, in the battle scene?
Yeah, in the battle. I thought that was really cool.
I think it's to save all of the, like, the people that she can. She kind of goes there because she's not on the front lines herself.
But Kettle calls her, and she's like, Abby.
Yeah.
And then Kettle, like, says something about the beings in her too, which was interesting. But I think it's interesting how little the characters in this know about the overall world and, like, magic. They just kind of made do with what they know, and I think I like that, because I think it shows that, like, it's been lost through, like, language and these banned books that they have locked up and things like that, because they're looking for a banned book to figure out more things and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I'm reading deeper into this than It says.
Which, does the book even end up that doesn't, right? The whole point that Ruli and Jolie are mad about is like the book was pointless.
Yeah.
So then why did they get it again?
Just because they wanted Scherzel to like think about it and think she needed it to not do it at a certain point, which was just Abyss Glass pulling the strings. Like, we needed her.
That I wasn't in love with. I thought that was confusing and not like it didn't land as well as it should for me.
I liked that because I was like, I thought it was cool to see. Yeah, all the maneuvering.
I remember there was specific, maybe it was that one that like there were certain things about Abyss Glass's maneuverings that didn't. I was like, how would she have known though? The Holy Sister and Pan, like or Wheel, the favored trading totally made sense. But there was something else that she had Nona do that like I didn't
see the threads. Like she was almost constant being able to see all of these threads and where they lined up and where they would go.
That's not 100% true, but kind of. They say that because she's none of the Bloods. Like, she doesn't have an actual magic, but there is a comment about how she intuitively has it. And so that they think maybe she does have the thread blood, but she doesn't actually see the threads.
Okay.
But they mention it being intuitive. But I think I think the thing with Abyss Glass is she knows people. That's what she does. She reads people really well, and knowing Scherzel and her personality, giving her this like fake plot was going to get her attention. So I think that's why
that one and the Holy Sister made sense. It was like something else. Was there something else that that Glass instructed Nona to do?
I don't.
She instructed Zol to go
get
with
the other
Nona.
shippers, and she tells them to keep Zol at death, like to say he's dead.
I can't think of anything.
I don't remember it now, but yeah, I wish I'd written it down. There was something where I was like, the reaction in the moment could have been something different, I thought. But anyway.
Fair. I don't remember it either. I feel like I need to reread these back to back. I definitely think I got more out of these stories on reread, which is not good because I don't have time to reread books, so I shouldn't feel this way about rereads.
This is your first reread, right?
First reread as an adult. The other thing I've only ever reread is like Fablehaven and Twilight. But
it was a success.
It was a success. I was scared. I was my favorite series. And on reread, I think I can probably bump this up to first or second. There's other series that I may need to reread to decide if that one's first or second. Not the Poppy War. I think the Poppy War has left my memory as time has gone on. It's still a favorite, but I definitely remembered things from this more. The other one is Fireborn, I think. These two.
Fireborn's incredible too.
Are good, but I probably should reread the Poppy War physically because I did it audio last time, but
well, probably a little bit of a recency bias too.
Yeah. But I also I read this one so long ago the first time, and every time I talked about it, I remembered how much I loved it. And I don't feel that way about the Poppy War, which some of that could be is I don't talk about it as much because it is already hyped. And I typically talk about underhyped series on my channel, I feel like, more than the hyped ones. Like, I don't talk about Daevabad or Poppy War as much as I probably should.
Makes sense.
What should I ask, Mark?
Something about if this was done this way because of this, but I don't remember exactly what the context was.
I definitely think I'll reread these. I did a tangent read listen with Red Sister and liked that one best and should have done with the other two. Yeah, that's fair. I need a nap. I think it gets better from there if you liked the end of the Poppy War. Well, I don't have, I think, anything else to talk about because we talked about Sister Pan and Abyss Glass and Clara.
The face down with what's her name when Zol, we think, falls down the tunnel and is dead. What's her name?
I don't remember, but I know what you're talking about.
You know who I'm talking about, yeah. Do we need to say anything about that?
Becca sounds like she has something to say. Sounds like, looks like.
No.
You dying?
I don't know. I don't think so. I feel like Yisht had to die, and I didn't know how else. So
thank you.
I'm glad, Carly, that you read this book with us.
I liked the whole throwing the ship
The
down the tunnel scene, though. I guess I liked that interaction with Zol.
I liked how she beat Zol, how she beat Ish too, with like putting the knife in like the air thing so that it wasn't her movement.
And her thought process.
I think I like Nona for being smart like that. And
Yeah.
as I think Rachel said earlier, she's very creative with her talents.
True.
And like how she gets to the path with like the anger and things like that. It's so different than anyone else. Which I think makes her a stronger person than some other people because she does come to things as herself and not as what she was trained to be.
Agreed.
I can't lie. This is me, as I was kind of rooting because I knew Apple died when I reread these. I was like, I could see Kettle and Nona together. on reread, I was like, they have so much chemistry as friends.
I mean, as friends
in the future, because
Yeah,
Ara
I feel like
leaves
it's like
and she
big
can't-
sister, little sister.
yeah.
Is there a big age gap there?
That's what I assume.
Yeah.
Is like they're really
I don't think it's that big because
Couple
Kettle
years.
is, I think, the more recently one, but I'm not sure. I also love an age gap, but because Ara at the end of this is now and doing her royalty thing, so she will have to take a male probably because she will need heirs.
Ara
And
gives
there's
that
a
up, doesn't
comment that she hasn't taken any because maybe she's waiting for someone, but also known as, you know, in the convent still.
Doesn't Ara come back to the convent and say, "Oh, my little sister or little brother or whoever can do it"?
Yeah, Ara comes back. He's like, "You needed me here." Yeah,
So
yeah,
I
she's
missed
like,
that.
"You needed me here."
Well,
And
then
then
never
don't we get
mind.
hints
My
that
Kettle
Kettle's gonna
Nona
love someone else?
fanfic is
Who was it that Kettle, like there was some sister that's been like slowly unrecruited love in the background, like loving Kettle, and then we get a hint that like there was a line about when Kettle will finally notice her. Did anyone catch that?
no,
no.
that was missed.
There was a romance.
Cauldron? Who's Cauldron? I hate sometimes two names.
Yeah.
Like
There was a line. Let me see. Sister Cauldron, yeah.
I can't think of
Sister
what it
Cauldron stood at the abbess's shoulder, watching Kettle as Nona had seen her do so often, waiting for that day when Kettle might see past Apple's ghost and find her waiting there.
Okay.
I do remember that line now that you read it, but I just didn't think anything like
I assume
my
having romance.
Kettle Nona fanfic has been destroyed, okay? Y'all crushed my
just
hopes and
crushed
dreams.
Cassie's hopes and dreams.
But who like do we know, have we met Sister Cauldron as
We've
a
seen her in the background somewhere, but not
I don't
really.
think so.
Sometimes the two names are hard. Like
She's
I was
like,
glad they didn't use them for most of the book because it was always confusing sometimes. Like if they called someone by, that's why like there was one person that got became a sister, but Nona often referred to her. She'd say her non-sister name, then be like, "Oh crap, Sister Blank." And I was like, "Thanks for doing this," because I would have no clue otherwise.
yeah, she's been there. She's just like hasn't done anything.
She's kind of
The
there.
gray assistant.
Yeah, she's just kind of there.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I don't think we get hints, but maybe someone on reread would notice what I didn't about like her liking.
I didn't.
I obviously didn't, so I'm gonna have
Me
to
knowing that
pay
she
attention to
existed.
it.
Yeah.
But the thing is, Kettle's just so in love with Apple that like I get it. It would be hard to like
I see it happening.
for me to even see it, I think something else because they're so fit together. If I didn't know that Apple died, I would have just
I wonder if he put that in as like people will be so sad and like wanting her to have a little bit of hope in the future.
me, I was so sad. I was like, how could you do this to me? Kill off anyone else. Kill off fucking Ara. Don't kill off Apple.
Yeah.
I loved them. I liked Kettle and Apple more the first time, and I think on reread, I didn't let myself get as connected to them because I didn't want it to break my heart. And there's so many moments where you think that one of them is gonna die.
Mhm.
I will say that is the one thing is like obviously like none of the characters I really loved, but I will say and like I didn't care about Apple except for the fact I cared about
Yes.
Casual caring about Apple.
Mm-hmm.
That was the only reason I cared about her. Like I didn't.
You don't really get much Apple.
I
Specifically.
do have
Yeah, I feel like I don't get
where I
as much
really
as
liked
Cat, but that's
Apple.
also because of the fact that like Kettle and Nona start body swapping.
I do have a few moments where I really liked Apple because I found like she was a very interesting teacher. And like the moment when she cares about like Nona, because when Nona decides to do the black test, and you can see Apple like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, she didn't mean for that to happen, but like there are a few moments that made me really care about Apple. But overall, it's because I love Kettle that I love Apple.
Yeah, they're very cute together.
She did text me. She's like, everyone was talking about Apple, and she's like, I know she dies. I vaguely remember Cauldron shooting glances, not glasses, during some of the meetings when the Abbott dude is there in the third book. Interesting.
Oh, good catch.
Okay, well, Mel has
ditched us.
But I'm gonna end these while she's not here, because I feel like we've said what we need to say, but I think that we could keep talking because it's us for a while.
I feel like there was other things, but like I can't remember. It's only like as you were saying things, I was like, oh yes, this thing, and then I immediately forgot.
Yeah,
I'm proud of my brain for remembering as much as I did. I'll say that.
I think everyone did pretty good. Having read the last 50 pages again, well, not again, but again today was really good for me. Yeah,
I would like to say I have read 13 books between that now.
I'm impressed.
Damn.
So I am impressed that I remembered that much.
Yeah. Although your memory is amazing for other things too, so I'm like, I expect that. Can we do rankings of the 3 books?
Oh yeah, we can do that.
And then we can end on that lovely note.
Mel came back, so
sorry. I had to be really
no, it's fine.
I didn't want to interrupt anybody.
I'm gonna end this without Mel. I think mine, you know what? I am debating giving this a 5-star after talking about it. So I will have to sit on this, but I still think wholeheartedly it's Grey Sister, Red Sister, Holy Sister. I love the character in Grey Sister that we obviously don't get in this, that I can never remember the name of.
Yeah.
I wish that he had stuck around more, but I understand he served a purpose. But yeah, that's my ranking.
If I had just read Holy Sister instead of rereading Red Sister and Grey Sister, it would have been Grey Sister, Red Sister, Holy Sister. But having reread them, I absolutely love Cute, but I'd have to really think about it, but it could be Red Sister, Grey Sister, Holy Sister. Could be maybe. I don't know. I just on reread appreciated Red Sister so much more that I think that, but I already liked and knew I was going to like Grey Sister, so I can remember liking Red Sister so much more than I originally liked it. I think that's why.
I now need you to apparently reread the entire series to see if you feel the same.
Apparently.
Know everything.
Yeah. No, mine would probably go Red, Grey, Holy. But it's actually like last 20% of Holy Sister, Red.
Fair. I think before this live show, I would have said Red, Holy, Grey. Like Grey was by far my least favorite. And I loved the Trials of Red. But I think after this live show, it might be Holy, Red, Grey.
Maybe that's what you would say.
I was the most emotionally connected now that we're like talking about it. I think it paid off for me, really, like the conclusion.
I'm sorry, Jonathan, I let you down. I said I wasn't committed to it.
It is interesting because like my love, I feel like I didn't think I would like Holy Sister more on reread, and I did, and then after discussing it with everyone, I'm like, it just pulls the entire series to me together so much that I do enjoy it more. I just wish it was longer.
Same.
I
gave it a high
4
star when I read it originally. Like when I finally finished it, I gave it a high 4 anyway. So it wasn't a low 4 for me.
That makes sense.
It might be a 5 now, but I don't change my ratings.
I was gonna ask a really stupid question, but then I realized it was stupid because I was like, okay, what's everyone's favorite backlist read so far? And then I was like, series.
Well, okay, obviously this one is, but I appreciate the Winnowing Flame as our.
I think overall that's probably like as a group that was the most successful.
I just like think that one I would not have gotten to without this as much, and I appreciate it for that. But obviously fuck Bone Chips and fuck Lycanius.
Well, I've only tried 2 out of 4, and I DNF'd Winnowing Flame, so I guess this one.
I think Winnowing gets me because I feel like Winnowing peaked at book 1. So that one's hard for me to like rank up there because
I want to reread it. I have a problem now. Why did people do this to me? But
It's
Essie's gonna become a rereading monster.
I just like think of it so fondly for the uniqueness that it is.
Yeah.
But
I
I
look back on it
remember
really
the
fondly.
struggles.
I
we
don't
had
remember
with
the
it.
problems. I just remember the things that I
Yeah.
It's a really cool story. Like I would recommend it to lots of people. I just remember us saying it peaked at book 1.
Yeah, I think if on reread I would like it better because I remember us saying that we wanted answers, like we wanted a Brandon Sanderson type everything comes back to matters, and it doesn't do that. But like I think
And I
about
also
those
think
animal
since then I've read a
companions
lot more
so
series
much.
where not everything matters.
Yeah, that's true too. But
Mhm.
the animal companions, man, they are so good. Second only to Fourth Wing animal companions. Lycanius was worse on reread.
Agreed, Rachel. Agreed.
Hopefully, this is a win, and then we will continue and have another win afterwards.
We shall see.
Yeah. Curious to see what will be after Book of the Ice.
Don't ask me those things. Okay, I'm going to end these. Thanks, everyone, for hanging out with us. Thanks for reading. We will see you in January for... Where the fuck is it? Stars! I feel like I need to read Lycanius before it gets talked about so much. Even if it's bad. People like it. A lot of people love it.
A lot of people love it.
I think book club wise, we had the most audience and most people enjoyed it. I just
think we had a lot to say about it. Like we had some really good discussions.
We did. Backlist is just Mark Lawrence. I would never make Backlist read Prince of Thorns, even though I enjoyed it. Like, that will never happen, especially because I DNF'd the last one. But that is just too much of a hit or miss book that I wouldn't want to. I wouldn't pick it for a book club.
Yeah.
No, because that means it'll be cursed.
Yeah, I don't know if this is a good one
Not cursed for me.
I love that for you too.
I don't know if them digging into it. I don't know.
Yeah, that's the thing.
I'm also not sure.
I would hope I liked it better.
It is so hard to.
It would be a reread for Mel. Yeah,
it would be a reread for me, but I don't remember it. Like I read it.
An interesting one, actually. Yeah.
I read it like 3 or 4 years ago. I gave it 3 stars, but really, like, I remember the basic plot. I remember the like main character and that kind of thing, but I don't remember enough details or how I felt about it to feel strongly about it now. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. But like the problem with that series is if you know in book 1 if it's your type of book or not. So
my biggest complaint about Mask of Mirrors is that it's the same complaint that I had in like Hurricane Wars. You can't make world building. Like a bunch of made up names for common things and for places does not make world building. And I felt like that one had way too much made up words that it was hard for me to like follow it and get invested in it, because every time it would say something, I would have to stop and be like, well, what are you talking about? And that's not world building to me. So I really had a hard time with that because it felt lazy.
They're not selective. They kind of just think of all the things they can and throw them all at you instead of selecting what would make the most sense. But I just feel like we'd read book 1 and people who didn't like book 1, like that you wouldn't enjoy book 2 or 3 more because they're the same. It's a very consistent trilogy.
Yeah,
I would be willing to reread it.
4-star.
But you liked the first one, right?
Yeah, I liked it. I think it's one of my lowest 4 stars of the year though. But then I gave the second and third one 5s.
See, I do think you could like them a bit more if you like the character. You get more connected, but
yeah,
I would be willing to reread it. I think it's one I could like better on reread.
That would be an interesting one though, too.
Yeah,
because
my biggest problem was I didn't care about the characters in book 1, but then in book 2 and 3 I did.
I would be open to that as well.
This is on the list.
That one scares me, but I'm willing.
I will be doing. I think
I just loved it.
A first chat. I love.
Which is also terrifying.
I will do a first chapter when we get to that, so that like I pick from like a bunch of first chapters or whatever.
We could do the thing though where
people have asked for Mask of Mirrors.
Block him real quick for me. Thanks.
Yeah, we had pretty good like When we did it for book checkout, the first book is the only one we did, but we had pretty good, like, the people who read it liked it mostly. So to be
Every
fair,
time I bring it up, I get a comment saying you should pick Mask of Mirrors for backlist. But I was like, we're just cursing that book then, because like the
Yeah.
problem with a book club book is that we read into them. We're
Yeah.
trying to
Yes, I
discuss
mean this in
things,
the
we're trying
nicest
to
way.
talk about things, and like that can either go really well in terms of like you read really
Yeah.
well into them and you liked it, or you read it, you didn't
Mhm.
enough because we're
Mhm.
discussing the deeper parts of a
Mhm.
story.
Mhm.
Yeah. See,
But
that's the thing. It's like, because like I do think like it's a good book to have a discussion on, but also, unlike Cassidy, who's putting herself through making her favorite series as a pick, I don't think I'm emotionally prepared to argue with you about how good it is.
fair.
Please let me defend myself here.
Which she then went into labor like during the day after, I think the night of the live show. That's how stressful it was.
Can you imagine if we picked Fireborn for this without you having read it and known you liked it and made Maria be there for it?
oh my god, I think I would have. This is the problem. If I had picked Fireborn, I full on think I would have hated it.
I disagree. I don't think you can read into that book in a way that makes I think it stands up to it.
I
We
don't know.
need to
I
find
think
a
I would
series
hate
that stand. Same with Red Sister. Like you read into it more than you did on your first read but you still loved it. I think we need to find a series that
it.
holds up.
Good luck.
Yeah. But it's tough.
Good luck. It is very tough, but I will try. I'll keep trying.
I
I
think
also
would have liked Ashes.
because
We did
I
Ashes of the Sun.
can't lie. After Lycanius, I don't want to force myself to read 3 700-page books that I hate. So
Yeah.
I've been really aiming for books that are shorter.
Which we could always do what we did with Powder Mage and just say nah, bro.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the
book
thing.
those haunt
I
me
think-
though. They're still on my shelf because
Mine too.
I still have
I
it.
need to try them again.
Me too.
I feel like I didn't give it enough of a chance, but like I
Same.
also didn't want to have to read all 3 books.
I want to read it like
you didn't get
outside of
far
a book
in.
club.
Like I think if we did book 1, like Mask of Mirrors, you could then bow out because you'd know kind of generally like what the project of the as
Cassidy
Angela
doesn't do
says.
that.
I'm not that person.
Cassidy doesn't do that.
I will bow out before the first live show, but not after.
Well, that's not
This is
helpful
exactly
of
where
you.
I got in the
I want to retry Promise of Blood, but without a book club lens.
Yes. I want to.
Because
I've been
I
trying to
think-
wait for the time I'm in the mood for something like that to try it again, instead of forcing myself to read it a week before I had to do a live show.
Because I was reading it and everyone was not liking it, and I kind of got the impression we weren't going to go to the live show anyway, and so I was just like, I kind of stopped caring in that moment. So I want to redo it, actually wanting to read it. Lexi, go away.
I'm gonna not lie. This is also not the first time I've been suggested the Hunger Games for backlist.
I'm not gonna lie. I actually don't really like them that much.
Fair.
Lexi is now unsubscribed to you.
Yeah, I just looked at my shelves. I can't think of a series that I think would make sense.
See, the thing is, all of the series on my shelves, I've read most of them because I buy books I'm excited about, and then I read them immediately.
Yeah, it would have to be I do think it could have more success if one of us had read it and tested it.
I tried that, and then
You-
we got Lycanius.
But you tried that with Powder Mage with Rachel having read that. Who read
Yeah,
Red
Mel read the first Lycanius book and gave it 4 stars, so we picked it. And then I gave it fucking 1 star, and she did 2 on reread.
Well, then don't listen to Mel.
That, in my defense, that was the first book that I ever read for a booktube channel. Therefore, and hadn't learned to be my mean hating book self yet. Okay.
You need to ask Mel what her brain ratings are versus her.
Yeah. So she did that last night. There was a quiz point, and it was like, what did Mel give this book? And Cassidy goes, the Goodreads rating or the real rating?
It's 3 versus 2. Your ratings are always lower.
I don't know. There's a few, I've been asked to do The Grace of Kings, but that's 5 books long, isn't it?
Oh, I do actually own the
That's
first
on
book
my
of that now.
2024.
I want to do that one.
I thought it was 5 for some reason.
No, it's 4. But
4 isn't that bad. I was like, 5 feels too long for
The 3rd
a
and
book
4th
club.
were technically written as one book that was just too long for publishers, so they split it. I would love that one. That would be really good. Or we could do, if Mel would stop reading Chronicles of the Unhewn Throne, and we could all do that one because Cassidy could
I would
reread.
do it. I would do it. I've thought about it so much. I would do it.
I would be
Yeah,
down
I
for
read
that.
that.
That means I
and
have to
enjoyed
wait
it.
like 6 months to continue the series because I have to read it right now for a thing.
You wait 6 months for other series.
Maria,
You do.
calling
I
me
wasn't planning on
out.
continuing that series.
Jeez, shots fired at me today.
I love you, but take one for the team.
You're actually right. You're
Far
right.
too long, but I've thought about this one.
I hate it. Well, I do
Fuckers.
know.
So fucking long too, and I'm scared I'm gonna hate it. That's
Sloggy.
why I
If
haven't-
you haven't realized yet, this is just Backstage Talking Live. So if you want to actually learn anything more about Holy Sister,
Yeah, we're done talking. We could probably just
Actually say bye.
I was just wondering if people wanted to give their input on book club
Yeah.
picks. There's still 19 people here listening to this.
yeah. So give us your input,
Movies.
except
Yeah.
Carly.
I think you'd
Okay.
lose a lot of people with Legacy of Ash, to be honest. I think
Me
it's
too.
a slog.
Yeah.
This is another problem. It has to be somewhat popular that people want to join. I mean, obviously you can do the unpopular ones, but the Winnowing Flame trilogy, we had our least amount of people because it was
Mhm.
less popular.
But it was the most successful. So
yeah.
what, you know, what
I
do you
just-
want more?
Whatever series gets picked. Jonathan, you need to give me ideas because Emperor's Blades was a success and you are the one who kind of told me to read it. So
Look, somebody needs to tell me now or forever hold their peace if they want me to just stop at book 1.
I'm not gonna lie, I was rooting for you not to start that series and for Cassidy to say, hold off, we're doing it for
I asked her and she said, "Don't hold off because I don't know what I'm doing."
I don't know what I'm doing. I won't know what I'm doing until
It
2
would be
weeks
so
before I
good.
have to, till probably 2 days before I have to announce it.
Yeah.
So she said, "Don't hold off because I don't know what I'm doing."
Well,
I
no.
did ask that.
Then
To be
it's
fair.
Cassidy's fault, yeah.
It is. It's all Cassidy's fault.
It is.
Yeah.
Okay. Grace of Kings would be cool. Chronicles on Thrones since I have to read it next year. Haze. The problem is what Haze?
It'd have to be Heresy Within.
Mm-hmm.
Or another Django, the one that we all want to try.
Mel read the YA one.
Not the
and
white, the adult one.
of it. And
How many? It's like 6 books. Never mind. Not
It's
that
6 books long.
Yeah, never mind.
Nope, 5
I
books long.
love that first chapter.
Because I was
Like
gonna pick it
eyeballs.
for the read along, but if I don't get to it next year, it'll be my Patreon read along the year after.
I do
probably.
think Grace of Kings might be a solid choice because I feel like people tend.
Yeah.
Long
Have a
ass
lot.
book, Maria. Long ass book.
I agree.
Yeah,
that it's
also,
just
like,
But a
people
long ass
tend
good
to
book.
like join in because they're finally getting pushed to read a book that's been sitting there for ages and they haven't picked it up because it's so big.
Mhm.
True.
It's just mean to me when I hate them. Even when I love them, to be honest, it was so nice picking up a book that I was like, oh, this will take me like a couple hours to read.
Mhm.
And I don't have to worry about like Canius, I felt like I had to like start 2 weeks before to get through.
Not
Yeah.
if you're me.
No, I can't say that. I read one of the Lycanius books in one day because I had to. But
Rachel, did you read book 2? I'm curious.
I also agree,
Yeah.
Jonathan, it scares me. But everything scares me as a book club pick.
Mhm.
I actually think I have read the first chapter of Grace of Kings too, and I didn't love it, but I couldn't decide if that was because I had just read the first Wheel of Time book and I had just read The Way of Kings, and then I picked up Grace of Kings and it's the same narrator for all of those, and I was like,
I physically read the first chapter and didn't like it for the first 5 pages, but it's like a 10 or 15 page chapter, and by the end I was hooked.
I read
Yeah.
200 pages and loved it, so I know for sure I'm gonna like it.
Yeah, I was pretty sure it was just because I was like, I can't do this. Like, I'm picturing other characters right now and not paying attention enough.
Yeah.
Which is why we didn't do Grace of Kings for this, like when we did Book of the Ancestor, I think, was because we were doing all the time.
That makes
Yeah,
sense.
I did think about that one and then wrote it off because of that exact reason.
Yeah. I'm gonna do you all a solid and read Throne of 5 Winds, and if it's a good trilogy, we could do that.
I have thought about this. I was like, do I just need to start reading first books and seeing if I like them? And
Yeah.
And then do the yeah.
but also then I'm like, am I gonna end up rereading it? Probably not. So I would have to make sure I did it close enough.
You could do the month before. Yeah.
Yeah. Since you don't pick until 2 days before anyway, you have time.
That would require me to start picking before 2 days.
Oh no,
Okay.
we
I am actually ending this, even though we gained people. Thanks so much for hanging out with us. We will see you sometime in January for Backlist. But we are all around. Everyone has channels. I did not link them down below, but I will after this. So see you.